Welcome to the Thriving Outside the Box podcast. Join me, Dr. Kimberly Grocher, a licensed psychotherapist, executive coach, and yoga and mindfulness meditation teacher, as I shed light on the stories of leaders and entrepreneurs across industries who have not only dared to create their own path in their careers, businesses, and lives, but found a way to do it while thriving mentally, physically, and spiritually. I hope you walk away with the inspiration to do the same. So welcome to another episode of Thriving Outside the Box, the podcast. I am Dr. Kimberly Grocher, and I am so grateful that you are here with me today. And I am excited to introduce my next guest, Ms. Meg Winnecour. So welcome, Meg.
Thank you, Kim. It's so exciting to be talking to you today.
Yes, it's really special to be talking to Meg today, too, because Meg was one of the inspirations for this podcast. I had been wanting to do a podcast for a long time and was trying to figure out how to format it, who I was talking to, things like that. And we kind of brainstormed this and talked about this in your backyard.
While you were on a creative residency.
Yes, exactly. And so we're going to get into all of that in a minute. But first, Meg, I want you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and the work that you do.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kim.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I am a mom and a partner. I have a teenage daughter. And I'm a lifelong artist, and I run a creative residency called Cloud Collective Residency in Asheville, North Carolina, that exists to give any creative person the time, space, and support to bring their creative dreams to fruition. And so what that looks like is hosting people in my home and figuring out what their favorite foods to eat are, cooking the food. I also am a cook. I love to cook. And then bringing in yoga teachers and workshop instructors who can enliven the experience for the residents.
Yes. I just want to second that. Cooking. Meg is an amazing cook, and I'm a very picky eater. Cooking was great. And also, during my time there, some of the people that you brought in, yoga with Jazz and the Sayeno type workshop and the massage therapist, and I'm so sorry her name escapes me right now, but all these people in the community who are able to kind of come in and offer something in this creative space.
Yeah. Thank you. That is high words, Kim. I'm lucky to live in a place that is full of really incredible people with such a broad array of gifts and talents. I mean, I feel a little guilty that not everybody gets to live in this town.
Yeah, Asheville is definitely a special place. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along, too. So tell us, how you got to this place. What has Meg's journey been?
Okay, well, beginning in high school, knew that I wanted to be an art teacher. My high school art teacher inspired me tremendously in that she sent me on a path to be an art ed major. And then I taught high school art at a big public high school. And then for the last 10 years, have been teaching middle school art at a small girls' school here in Asheville.
I want to go back to you deciding to be an art teacher in high school, right? And going to college for art education. So I'm not sure what your upbringing was like, right? I know most people try to steer their kids away from art, So you said, I went to school for art, and like how people say, I went to school for medicine, or I went to school for business or something like that. But usually art is one of those things where people are like, wait a minute, what are you doing?
Your life.
Yeah. So what was that like when you told your family that you wanted to go to school for art?
Oh, I am so excited that you asked. I wasn't sure how deeply you wanted me to get into this, but you want to go to the root.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay. It starts with sitting in my underwear at the kitchen table while I was a tiny child, drawing pictures while my mom was cooking. So my mother was an artist. Her sisters were artists. Their father was an artist. They all painted from the time they were small. And so my mom, I mean, I'm the youngest of 8 kids, which is a whole nother podcast interview in itself. But I don't know how she managed to parent 8 kids and run a household and maintain the tiniest stream of time for her own creativity. But she did it. In reflecting, I think she carved out that little bit of time because it was a lifeline for her. Like it was how she could do everything else. It was her little bubbling well where she drew, I mean, the energy to like get through her day, probably. And so I think, you know, because she always had art materials in the kitchen, she sat me down because she needed a moment's peace, probably. With these art materials. And then I don't know what the magic spark was, but it felt right to me as a child. And so I just kept doing it. And that was always my home base. I would return to sitting down and drawing or sitting down and painting anytime I like felt dysregulated or bored or sad or excited about something that was fizzing in the back of my mind. Yeah, that was my home. And so, my sweet mom, she was so tired by the time she got to me, number 8, that I just can't even believe she was paying attention enough to be like, okay, this kid needs more than just sitting at the kitchen counter. I'm going to enroll her in some art classes. There was this amazing art museum school where I grew up, which is Charleston, South Carolina. It was called the Gibbs Studio. It's no longer in existence, but it was foundational in my life as like a kind of creative mecca. So like I would look forward all year long to getting to take a summer camp week there or take a Saturday class with one of the art educators there. And then in high school, she paid $40 a month for me to take an art class after school with this woman, Virginia Fouché Bolton. And I mean, the fact that like my parents didn't have any money, but the fact that my mom would advocate to my dad, who worked like 3 jobs, for me to be able to have this art time was huge. It was huge. And so I would go to these art classes and just be like, these are my people. This is my home. And from there, thank goodness, Virginia Bolton advocated for me to apply to the South Carolina Governor's School for the Arts summer program. I never would have known that existed had it not been for her. She passed me the application form. She wrote me a recommendation. She set up the time for me to go have an interview. I mean, like, these people are angels. What would I be doing now if it weren't for these folks? And so luckily got into the governor's school, and my lovely Aunt Mary paid for me to go because my parents couldn't swing it. So I got to spend 5 weeks at Furman University taking art classes with these people who were professors at surrounding colleges and universities.
Wow.
It set me on the course for sure. And they said, because I got up the nerve to ask my painting teacher at governor's school, I was like, where do you think I should go to college if I'm interested in being an art teacher? She and my other 2D design teacher said, you got to go to App State. They have the best art ed program in the Southeast. And so I was like, okay. So I applied to go to school at Appalachian State University in Boone, North Carolina. Again, I mean, I applied to App State and College of Charleston and UGA. I didn't get into UGA. I didn't want to go to College of Charleston because that was home. And I knew somehow that I was ready to leave home.
Mm-hmm.
Thank goodness I got into App State. The rest is history. I am forever indebted and in gratitude to my professors, my art ed professors there, and my College of Art professors there, who gave me an amazing art education.
Yeah.
And then, gosh, one of my dear professors, Dr. Eric Purvis, recommended me as a potential candidate for an art teaching position at a big public high school in Morganton, North Carolina, after I graduated.
Wow.
And the interview was both terrifying and thrilling because, like, even just sitting in the interview at the high school in Morganton, I was like, this is absolutely beyond the shadow of a doubt what I want to be doing and what I know that I am on this planet to do.
How sublime is that to know early on what your purpose was? How did you know that was your purpose? Like, what was it that at that age in your early 20s, right, that you were like, probably before, but like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing?
That is an important question. And I want to say I feel so lucky. Like I somehow won the universe roulette of like getting to know what I want to do. It's a feeling of yesness in my whole body, mind, and spirit. I've just been like at every stage of my life, every encounter I have is either a nope, that's not for me, or a hell yes, I'm all in. I will do this for free, for no money, and be psyched about it. And I think that began, just from the time I remember that tiny little kid sitting in my underwear at the table drawing, I just had to like really pay deep attention to the things that were pleasing and nourishing to me and the things that were like scary and felt unsafe. And I think that maybe like if it, I follow lots of really brilliant psychologists on Instagram these days, and I'm learning that maybe I was like parenting myself really early and like keeping myself in the right safe place. It gave me an opportunity to really hone my instincts. And so I will say, like walking through high school, people are like testing all the boundaries, doing teenagery things. And I just really very easily knew, that's not for me. I'm not going to get into that. Or like, oh, this feels so good and safe to my body. Making art is the right thing. And that just kept going. The other thing is I've always known I could trust myself. I think that's a benefit of raising yourself, maybe. Mm-hmm. A benefit for me of kind of like raising myself was just knowing beyond the shadow of a doubt I could trust my judgment and intuition above everybody else's judgment and intuition for me. So yeah, it's in my body and it's pure luck, pure and complete luck.
No, that's what it is. Being able to trust yourself, right? Having parented yourself. I love how you recognize like the strengths that came with that. Like I'm sure there, like you said, that could be another podcast episode, maybe some of the other experiences that came from that, right? But like in terms of where you are today, understanding that there were strengths or there were things that you made into strengths about that experience that kind of helped you on your path.
Yeah.
And helped you to develop a relationship with yourself.
Totally. Yep. It's really interesting. I was talking to my sweetheart, Josh, this morning about like, it's so funny that you asked this question about like, how do you know who you are? I have just known from the moment go exactly who I am. And I don't really totally know how.
I have to say, and we may be going off on a tangent here, but I think back to how we met, right? And we met in Orakville, France, a little town about 3 hours, maybe 3.5 hours north of Paris, at this amazing artist and writers residency that we were both selected for and happened to be at the same time in December 2023. And I think that's one of the things that drew me to you. There's something about people that know themselves. And are comfortable with themselves and give themselves permission to be themselves, especially in a group of people. It was like 20 of us, 21 of us, that you don't know each other. You know, you're coming from all these different places, a lot of different personalities, you know.
Yes.
A lot of different life experiences. Like I can see that in you. You're just at ease with yourself.
Yeah. Yes. Gosh, Kim, thank you so much. I know I feel the exact same about you. Just an ease and a confidence. There's confidence that comes from just being comfortable who you are and knowing who you are in the world.
Yep.
Ah, man, thank you. That's really so generous and kind of you to say. I'm always like, it's like such a huge swath of decision making that you don't have to do when you know what you're supposed to be doing. And that frees up all this energy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, please may I just be doing the right things. Please may I be of service in the world, you know, since I don't have to spend energy trying to figure that out.
Yes. Yes. It's about how can I walk in my purpose instead of what am I supposed to be? Who did they tell me I was? And, you know, nothing wrong with that. That's why I do the work I do. There are a lot of people in this world who are trying to figure that out, right? And no shame, no guilt about that. But it's to be able to get to a place where you can say, I know me and I know the spaces I want to be in that are going to support me and love me. And not that we necessarily think the same or look the same or whatever like that, but where I'm going to be encouraged to be myself. I'm going to be loved to be myself versus these other places that are trying to make me fit into a mold.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. That talk about a hell yes or a hell no. You can tell, and I'm certain that you would agree with this, but the minute you're in a space where people want you to fit into a certain mold is like the biggest no.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Here's the thing. It's nothing against them. They know what they need and they know the kind of person that they need. And I just know that maybe I'm not going to be that person because I'm not that willing to like bend and contort myself. And so let's just save us all a bunch of worry and stress.
Yes.
Yeah. And then, okay, so here's another instance of just knowing. And I think somewhere in my teenage years, I think I made a promise to myself that I would never do a thing for the money. I would never take a job for the money. I would never stay in a job for the money. I would never make decisions based on money. And that promise, I don't know why I did it, but it stayed for my whole entire life. I just knew I would like figure it out. If I loved a job enough, if I loved this work enough, I would just make it work. So I think I was making $23,000 a year in that teaching job. And then one morning, I was taking my shower and I heard a voice in my head. It said, it's time for you to quit this job. It's time for the next thing. Everything changed in that moment. I walked into my school day knowing that it would be the last day of knowing I was a teacher at Freedom High School. I'm pretty sure I wrote my resignation letter that night. Like, I don't know where this is coming from. I was 26. It seemed insane to me and everyone I knew because I loved my job and was so happy. And I just kept moving forward with trust that the next thing was the right thing. And I went and after leaving that year, which was excruciating because I didn't have any good reason for why, I went and lived in Acadia, Maine for 6 months and rode my bike every day and was just really by myself for 6 months. I had no idea what I was doing. And finally, I was starting to run out of money. And I was talking to a friend of mine from the high school. She was the English teacher. Her name is Anne. I was like, Anne, I don't know what's next. Should I stay? Should I work at a restaurant? Should I just get maybe a sub job to get back in schools? And she was like, Outward Bound is always looking for a base camp cook. You could probably do that. And I was like, Outward Bound. Cool. And so I called the North Carolina Outward Bound School. Indeed, they were looking for a cook for the following season. I think I got hired on the spot. And so I drove myself to Brevard, North Carolina, and started my job as a cook at the Cedar Rock Base Camp for the North Carolina Outward Bound School. And within 4 months, had met the love of my life, Josh Winnecour. And holy cow, the rest is history. Both Josh and Outward Bound are integral parts of my identity and my life right now.
That's amazing. So even as you were listening to yourself and being open to what you knew about yourself, but also what you were discovering, right? Because there was openness to discovery. It allowed you to not only move to the next thing on your career path or your professional path, right? But it brought your personal life into alignment.
Yes, you're so right. Because I will say, Kim, that although I was as happy as a Meg could be teaching at the high school, I was definitely lonely. It was a small town and I felt like I was the only person there who was my age. There were my students and then there were my students' parents. And so I was not feeling super fulfilled in my personal social life. So it was I needed to leave to find that key piece, even though at the time, and honestly, until this minute talking to you, I wouldn't have known that leaving was because of that, or that that was something that was even missing.
Right.
I just thought that that was the flavor of my life, was being happy, but a little bit lonely.
So then you and Josh were together, right? So then what was next?
So I loved cooking again. Was making no money, but didn't care, would have done it for free. Josh and I fell instantly for each other and were engaged within a few months. And so Josh knew that he was ready for something else. He'd been working for Outward Bound for several years longer than I had been. And so he was ready to come back to Asheville and start nursing school. And so we moved to Asheville. I had no plan. I knew that I loved art and I loved teaching and I loved cooking and I loved Josh. And so we moved here and I got a job in a restaurant, Melanie's Food Fantasy. And I worked in restaurants for years and really loved it. But still something was missing. And I was walking, back in those days, I was a runner and used to love running along the river where Asheville is situated along the French Broad River. And one day, as I'm running, a voice in my head said, go up and talk to the owner of this studio building and let him know that you want a studio and see if there's anything available. So all sweaty from my run, went and spoke with the owner of the Wedge. His name was John Payne. I will forever have him in my constellation of luckiest stars. And I explained that I was an artist and that I would really love to have a studio in his space. And he was like, what makes you think you deserve to have a studio in this building? He was very blunt and a little bit sassy.
Okay. What makes you think you deserve to have a studio in this space?
I know. And I'm like, whoa, how was I brave enough to just not run away in that moment? I just think I didn't have anything to lose. And I was like, I've been an artist my whole life and I haven't been making art for many years. And my word is good. I'll make good on my promise to you that I'll make a lot of art in this space and I'll share it with our community. And it will be a place where people can come and get inspired. And he was like, okay, kid, here's the rent. You can move in next month. And like the fact that he even had a space, it's crazy to me that he had a studio coming available at that time. And so Josh and I didn't have the money. There was no way. But we figured out that like if I could sell X amount of paintings every month, that would cover the cost. And also maybe I could get a couple of studio mates to share the space. So I reached out to my dear friends, Cam and Lucia, and they said, yeah, sounds great. We'd love to join you. We did it. And I mean, I would love to tell you this next story about my first month in that studio.
Okay.
So I was able to move into the studio in May, 1 month before this big event that happens every year in Asheville called the Studio Stroll. And it's all the creative folks in the River Arts District put on this giant weekend of open studios. And you just crawl from place to place. You get to see inside people's workspaces, which is really exciting and inspiring. And so I was like, okay, I have 1 month to prepare and make enough art to try to sell and make my rent for this month and next month. And so I was working so hard. I would go to my like cook job in the day and then come to the studio at night and make these paintings. And I remember I didn't have money to buy canvases or panels at that time. So I would go to the salvage yard and to Goodwill and get cabinet doors for $1. And so I would like sand and prime all these cabinet doors, paint on them, which was really fun because at the end it looked like they had a frame already. And so it was maybe the week before the studio stroll and we'd had a cold, rainy spring. And I remember this was like the first warm day that we'd had in months and months. And I was super tired from kind of working hard and staying up late. So I went out on my landing. We had a fire escape and it was the middle of the day and it felt like just deliciously warm. And I laid down on the stairs of the landing and just a little bit dozing in and out and enjoying the sensation of like being hot. But one thing was weird. In my like half asleep, half awake state, I got so cold on my right side that I just kind of woke up a little bit. When my eyes opened, stretched from my shoulder to my toe, all along my body was a giant black snake. Its head was on my top of my foot. It must have sensed me like startle a little bit. And it just slowly slithered off my body into my studio, into a hole in the wall. And the whole experience was so unreal. And I would mention it to other people and they're like, oh yeah, we've totally seen black snakes in the building. And then at the studio stroll, sold every single painting that I made, which was a total gift from the universe, paid my 2 months of rent. And some months later, I went to Penland, which is a craft school. And my book arts teacher at Penland, I told her that story. And she said, well, you know, snakes are harbingers of using your creativity to expand your life. And snakes can mean that you're about to like step into your creative power more fully. And so I give thanks to Gus, the black snake, for giving me the blessing of like knowing that I was on the right path.
Wow. What a message. I didn't know you were going there with that. First of all, lots of respect to you for the amount of control that you had because I probably would have fell off the landing.
Something in me knew that it was better to stay still than to freak out. I don't know how.
But it's like when you said that it split it. I couldn't remember what snakes meant, right? But there is a meaning to like animals and things like that in nature and things, and so, wow.
Yeah, so wild. So that was kind of like the third piece. So I had my Josh, I had fulfilling work in the restaurant, and now I had a studio and an understanding that I was on the right path.
So how did you get to France? How did you get to this writers and artists residency?
Well, obviously something knew that I needed to meet you, Dr. Kim, and had me apply for that residency. So my daughter, Juniper, when she started middle school, it was in the pandemic and the world was in lockdown. And she had started taking French lessons in 6th grade. And she had just kind of finished doing her French online class. And she was like, am I ever going to use this? I mean, I like the class, but when am I ever going to speak French or need to know about French culture? And I got a little indignant. I was like, oh, you are going to use this language. We're going to travel. The world will open up again and people will be able to move freely about, and learning about other cultures and living in other countries and experiencing other ways of being. And so I was like, wouldn't it be cool if there was an art residency in France and we could go there and make art and immerse ourselves in French culture? 4 minutes later, we found Chateau Orquevaux, and we happened to notice that there were no fee to apply and nothing anywhere on the website that said you had to be an adult to go there.
Yep.
So I was like, babe, what the heck? Let's apply. This is what people do. We, artists especially, and writers, we apply for things, we put our work out there, and then you forget about it. Like, you can't be attached to the outcome, but you got to just try. So we filled out our essay responses. We submitted pictures of our art, hers and mine. We applied as an artist duo. And I did, in full disclosure, say, by the way, Juniper, who's applying with me, is my daughter. And then I was like, okay, once we hit send, we have to forget about it. Because like, you can't obsess about whether or not you're going to get accepted. Sometimes you never even hear back. So we did, in fact, forget that we had applied. And then 6 months later, we were working for North Carolina Outward Bound School, and Juniper was living there with us at the time. And she came into the kitchen where I was cooking lunch, carrying her laptop. She's like white as a sheet. She says, Mama, we got in. And I was like, in where? What'd we get into? Totally forgot. She's like, Chateau Orquevaux, we got in. And so we freaked out in the kitchen for a few minutes and realized that because we had been in the forest doing other things, we weren't checking our email regularly. And we had 24 hours to respond and put a deposit down, whether we were going to accept our spot, because they'd sent the email ages ago, but I hadn't checked it. So quickly as I could, did all the internet stalking of this place that I could. I was like, is this some kind of White Lotus situation where we're going to get lured to France and get murdered?
Yes. I had the same reaction. I was like, total excitement, total amazement. And then like, wait a minute.
Is this real?
Check this out.
So you stalked it too?
Yeah, I did. Because I was like, I don't know anybody that's gone. I found it on the internet. I'm going by myself.
Right.
Let me see if this is legit.
Yes. Oh, that is hilarious, Kim. Yeah. So like, luckily, I was able to go on their Instagram, find their followers who had commented on their posts, follow their followers, make sure their followers were real people. And then I reached out to this lovely woman named Marlo in Virginia. And I was like, forgive me, this is really forward. I'm a total stranger. But can you verify for me that the Chateau Orquevaux residency is real? Thankfully, she got back to me and was like, it is so real. do not hesitate, pay the money and go. You will thank all your lucky stars. And the rest is history, including meeting you at the train station in Chaumont.
Yep. We bonded over clean bathrooms.
That's right.
We were like,
we know what's important.
Exactly. This is all hinging on clean bathrooms.
Yes. It's a great foundation for any friendship.
Exactly. No, that's amazing. Okay, so we were there. I was there as like a writer. You were the art teacher for us writers. And while we were there, you shared with some of us that you wanted to create your own residency. Where was that idea born? Did it start there or did it come before? What kind of got you on that path?
Oh, that's a great question. Thanks for asking. So I've wanted to make a residency, even though I didn't know back then that it was called a residency. Mm-hmm. I was teaching high school right out of college. Mm-hmm. So I kept feeling like there needed to be a third space where anyone could come and there would be supplies available. They wouldn't have to spend a bunch of money to buy these art supplies to see whether or not they enjoyed making things. The space needed to have certain things, namely a really chill, down-tempo vibe. Lots of private nooks where you could work, but also communal places, because sometimes folks like to be around other people when they make work. Mm-hmm. And I knew there needed to be good light and it needed to be in the heart of things so that, it wasn't hard to get there. Because I kept thinking about my students and being home might not be the place where they want to make art. They might not have access to resources or materials. It might be too chaotic at home to be able to really dive deeply. So what if there could be a space in the little downtown of where I was? It was Morganton. What if there could be a little space that was run by a really welcoming, friendly, warm, caring person who also had some skills and some know-how and could help somebody feel safe in the space to explore, safe enough to make a mess, to follow their curiosity. They could just really go in and play and get messy with no consequences whatsoever. The challenge of that was whoa, how do you pay for it? Mm-hmm. Especially when the kind of people I was hoping to serve were teenagers, people who had chaotic or hectic home lives,
Right.
And so back then I couldn't figure it out, but it was burning in me always to help people find the same kind of joy and emotional stability and emotional regulation that I had always found while making art. It just seemed really accessible. And if only people had the tools and the space and the safety, they could really find that steadiness themselves. So, always I'm wouldn't it be cool if, but I don't have any money and I don't know how to do it. Fast forward 20 years, my family, Josh and Juniper and I, are living in a big 100-year-old house in West Asheville. And we're sharing it with another family who owns it. The week before leaving for Orquevaux, it was Thanksgiving, we're having dinner with Ian and his dear girlfriend, Julie, who had also been living with us, she and her son. And they said, we have something to tell you. We are going to move out, but we would love for you to take over the house and rent it in any way that you see fit. Because obviously it's too much house for just our little tiny family.
Right.
And in that moment, a million reasons would have had us be ooh, yikes, that is too much. We cannot take that on. But I think because for 25 years, I had been like, I wish I had a space where people could come and be safe and supported to dive into their creative work. All of a sudden, it just came into the sharpest focus for me. And I looked at Josh. Josh nodded his head. And we were like, yes. And so where I was going to go to France to the residency and focus on painting, which is the art that I do, instead I was like, how are y'all doing this? What does it look like to make residency? How do you pull it off? So Sweet Beulah and Ziggy, I don't know that they knew that I was watching them like a hawk the whole time, but I was. and I was like, I think I can do this on obviously a much, much, much smaller scale. This house is not a French chateau.
But it's quite big in its own right and beautiful. Lots of Southern charm. Yes.
Oh, thank you, Kim. Yeah. So, and they're such lovely people. And when I told them what I was thinking and asked if I could have some of their time to just kind of feel out if they even thought that it was possible for me, they were like, yeah, you can do this. It sounds like your house is the perfect house. It's in the perfect situation. And you are the right person for the work because you're warm and welcoming and supportive and you have skills and you can cook and you don't mind working hard. They were like, yeah, I think you should go for it. So from that moment was when I was like, oh, I need to tell my friends at the residency because I obviously want them to come be my beta testers because we now have a shared language. We have a shared understanding of what makes a good residency. What are the kind of hurdles that would need to be overcome? And y'all were just the sweetest, most supportive, encouraging people, you writers. And you agreed to come.
I remember when you came into the dining room and you were like, hey, I got to tell you something. And you told me and I was like, what? Because, the business side of me was like, this is amazing. This is great. And I also had never heard of someone. Like, I didn't know. I mean, maybe I didn't ever hear of somebody starting it. I came to this residency, right? So they had to start it. But I didn't know anybody that was like, I'm going to start an artist and writers residency. Like I've helped therapists, I've helped attorneys, I've helped physicians. I know people who have started product-based businesses, right? But this was like something else altogether. It's not even a retreat, right? It's not even the same thing as like a retreat. There's a retreat aspect to it, but it's different. It's totally different. And so it was so exciting to see you excited about this, thinking about this, and then to be asked to become a beta tester. And I just want to point out for the listeners, see, this is like where being open to meeting other people, going into different spaces, talking to each other. We did a collaboration, right? So you let me be your beta tester, like coming and experiencing it. And in turn, I gave you not only feedback, but some business consulting and coaching as much as I could around it, right? So we did like a real partnership. And my experience there was just exactly as Ziggy and Beulah described you. Shout out to Ziggy and Beulah. You were so warm. You were so welcoming. We had this planned out, but of course life happens. So I was coming on the heels of a family crisis and you and Josh just nurturing, and Juniper, amazing Juniper. I've never met a young woman so creative and with her head on straight and just like who knows herself, like her mama, but you all just really supported me and nurtured me and allowed me to completely be myself in your space while I was nurturing my creativity and also getting well.
Yeah. Gosh, that is such big, generous, kind words. Thank you so much. Your feedback and your business and coaching advice have proven invaluable. I will forever be in your debt for that amazing counsel that you offered. I feel like you're part of the DNA of Cloud Collective Residency. I mean, it's the coolest thing.
No, I loved it. And so where is Cloud Collective now? What's happening now?
Yeah, good question. I do also want to say I'm definitely going to answer that, but I also want to say, as part of running a residency, a creative space where people can come and hopefully feel safe enough to bring their creative work forward. You truly never know what people are coming from. And our best intentions were pushed to the side because, as you said, you had a family crisis and you truly seemed to come there in need of like recovery, like healing. And so it was such an honor to take good care of you while you were like just regaining your sense of stability and like, you were getting some sleep. Like that was a big deal for you.
Yep.
And not having to take care of yourself. In addition to not having to take care of other people, but I got the sense that you hadn't even had time to fix yourself good meals or like participate in your own self-care because you had been caring for family members.
Exactly.
Like that is part of a creative residency, I believe. So where the artist residency is now is that purpose and that mission is there. And I'm just so hopeful that the word will get out about it and people will come. I should say I have very minimal skills with technology. I can do the basic things. And so I don't yet have a website. Friends are helping me build one. Thank goodness for Instagram and Facebook. I mean, say what you will about social media. It's really helping me so much.
Yep.
Have an online presence so that people can find Cloud Collective. It's been amazing. It is incomprehensible to me.
So for all of my entrepreneurs, I just want to pause here for a moment and point this out because sometimes we think we need to have all the pretty things in place. We need to have the website. We need to have this. We need to have the flashy marketing materials. We need to have that. And it's like, yes, those things are important. And like you said, you're working on it, right? But you got to start. It's starting. You got to do the thing. You can build that as you go along. But a lot of times we let these other things we think are so important hold us up.
100%. And Kim, I mean, I have to say, like, you are so right about that. You'll do a thing by doing the thing.
Right.
And if there's impetus and like energy built up in you to run with the thing, run with the thing. I mean, problems will arise and you'll deal with them as they come. But there's such great combustion energy in starting that I can't say enough good things about what you just said, which is like, go for it. Just start on the path. And I will also say that Ian had a hard date for when our tiny rent stopped and our big ginormous rent started. And so, boy, let me tell you, that is motivating.
Back against the wall. Like,
yes.
Yes, we're friends and we need to pay bills, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So, sometimes like renting a space and knowing that your lease begins on this date in 6 months is motivating. And that will really force you to start making decisions and just being brave and putting yourself out there. This will be very woo-woo, but I do think that whatever you call it, whether that's the universe, whether that's God, whether that's divine spark, whatever it is that impels you to move forward, as soon as you make a commitment, the universe, is like, okay, she's ready. Let's do this. and the doors start to open. And that is the coolest feeling in the whole entire world.
Agreed. I 100% agree. Whether you call it universe, whether you call it God, whether you call it Allah, whether you call it whatever,
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
like the creator out there is going to help you, bring it to fruition, but you have to make the commitment.
Yes.
And sometimes the commitment is just mentally saying yes.
Yeah. So once the word was out and y'all were coming, you had bought flights. I was like, oh, I have to make this house comfortable. And it's like, we couldn't afford to buy new beds, new furniture, bedding, towels, plates, all the things. I didn't know how I was going to do that. I thought maybe you would just be gracious and sleep on our pull-out futon with some old towels. But 3 days after you had said, okay, I got my tickets, I got my flights, I was just casually talking on the phone to my sister in Charleston, who was like, Meg, we have just bought this smaller house and we don't have room for our furniture. They had just downsized. She was like, I don't want to just sell them and I don't just want to take them to Goodwill. And I was like, we'll be there tomorrow with a U-Haul. Please, can we take your beautiful things off your hands? I mean, just the crazy luck of timing of that. And so now, we didn't have to spend money outfitting the rooms with comfortable beds and bedding and, things that feel not luxurious and not decadent, but nice.
I don't know. My bed was pretty luxurious.
Yeah.
My bed in my room and my bathroom, because we already know about clean bathrooms, but it felt pretty luxurious to me. Yes. Yes.
Oh, yay. Thank you, Kim. I'm so glad it felt that way.
Yes. So I guess my final question for you would be, how do you stay well in all of this? Because you are super busy. There's not too many people in my life that I meet who are as busy, I'll say it with quotes, as I am. But you are like one of those people where I think you've got me beat. So between raising a teenage daughter, being there for all of her activities and to support her, your marriage, your husband works outside the home. So finding time for you all to be together running this residency. And you're also we didn't even get into the fact that you're active in your community in terms of you're doing a residency now, at another spot in Asheville. You did a residency earlier this year and last year at a synagogue, right? You were their artist in residence. You have so much on your plate, but how do you thrive? How do you stay well?
Ooh, I write every single day. I did the artist way fresh out of college when I felt a little bit adrift. Just the most casual offhand thing. I did it and the rest of my life is history, thousands of morning pages later. And then I really love movement. I think movement is crucial, whether it's yoga or going on a walk. To be honest, it doesn't really matter what it is. It's just movement, specifically with the purpose of breaking a sweat. For me, sweating is important. There's something about the shift in my metabolism that really sharpens my thinking and somehow gets my creativity flowing. And then also knowing that no matter what, if anyone in my family is feeling stress, or if something is not working for any member of my family, or if I'm feeling disconnected from my family, nothing else matters. I'm going to cancel things. I'm going to say no. I'm going to clear the deck so that the little precious core of my family can connect.
That's amazing. I love that. The connection between the three of you of your family, right? Not just making it a priority, but living it. That's the priority. And then everything else, movement, your writing, the daily writing practice. So all of those things kind of form your foundation.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's home base for me.
Mm-hmm. I love that. You have to have home base before you can go to any of the other bases.
That's right. And it's the safe place to return anytime things start to feel out of control or overwhelming. Go back to writing, get some exercise, spend a little time checking in with your family.
I love it. Oh, Meg, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I so appreciate you. I'm so excited to watch how Cloud Collective continues to grow and unfold for you and just your own path, like all the amazing things that you're doing. So,
Kim, it's been such an honor and a true delight talking to you. Thanks for asking all your insightful questions. I'm so honored.
Absolutely. So we will end it here. Thank you all for listening to Thriving Outside the Box. Check out the show notes so you can see Meg's website or follow her on Instagram and Facebook for the Cloud Collective and all the other good things that she's putting out into the world, making a safe place for creatives to be creative.